Hey everyone, welcome back to my continuing review for Handmaid's Tale, Season 3, Episode 12, titled Sacrifice. And I can't think of a better word to describe this episode. But before I get started, tell me in the comments below, as usual, what did you think of this episode? We have one more left until the season finale. And also on my channel, if you take a look, I do have the review up for The Kitchen, which also co-stars Elizabeth Moss. So tell me what you think of that. And don't forget, consider clicking on that subscribe button and the bell in order to hear any more content from me for your future enjoyment. So as usual, we have two storylines coinciding with each other. One dealing with June and the Lawrences back in Gilead, and the other ones with the Waterfords, which are now prisoners in Canada. First, to start out with June's side, I like how the episode opens in her room and like the light shining through the windows. It had a very haunting look, but once again attractive to the eye, as this show always is. And their sequence for them at the house mostly deals with how they're trying to proceed with getting the children out into Canada. And throughout the scenes in the house, they're having a lot of difficulty with Mrs. Lawrence because there are so many moments where she almost lets the cat out of the bag, so to speak. But once June comes out of her room, she finds out the news about the Waterfords, and she finds out that she's in the clear for Winslow's murder. So things are looking up for her. She's happy that she's not going to be in trouble for any of this, and so she's able to proceed with what she wants to do. And she heads over to the supermarket, and I'm noticing that the supermarket sequences are becoming kind of like a sanctuary for these women, for the handmaids and the Marthas, so to speak. They're able to talk about what they're trying to do, but in secrecy. And now I noticed when she went into the supermarket this time, everyone's looking at her as a leader, someone of importance. They're proud of her for what she's doing because she's taking a step forward to get somebody out and not just herself. But these plans obviously are almost destroyed because of Mrs. Lawrence. And that scene when they're all praying for Mr. Winslow's safe return was just jaw-dropping. My heart sank when Mrs. Lawrence said what she said about getting the kids out, and you can see the looks on June and Mr. Lawrence's face that they were almost caught in the act of what they're doing. So it seemed quite apparent that Mrs. Lawrence was going to become a problem in this mission that they're doing, and now that she knows, and Mrs. Lawrence told her this, she is now trying to go out to the neighborhood, trying to get all the other kids, trying to bring them to safety, and she thinks she's doing a good thing, but she's doing it the wrong way. And this, of course, leads to the sequence of when she's in bed and she has overdosed on her pills. And this was a very hard scene to watch because June is trying to save her, but then she realizes that she's about to walk out of the room, that if she lets her die, this may be better chances of them be able to complete this mission of getting the kids out. And this is how what I was saying with the title of this episode, Sacrifice. This scene there is the embodiment of that title, how she's willing to make the sacrifice and have the wife die in order to succeed with getting the kids out into Canada. And it's just very hard to watch. Even though you understand why June's doing it, you don't think it's right at the same time because she's letting his wife die, someone that Mr. Lawrence loves so much. She's willing to let her die in order to proceed with what they're doing. But I did enjoy the scene where June goes back into her room and they have a shot of her and she's looking up at the ceiling, and she has pretty much been up the entire night. And instead of showing the Marthas coming into the room, seeing Mrs. Lawrence dead, you just had that shot of June the whole time and hearing the audio of them screaming, seeing the fact that she has passed away. And I love making connections to other movies and shows, but that same shot, the way it was filmed, reminded me a lot of a movie that I saw last year, maybe many of you have as well, called Hereditary, where the main son of the film let his sister die after a car accident and she gets nearly decapitated, and he's pretty much responsible for it. So he goes back in his room and you see his face the entire time, and it kind of fast forwards through the night. And instead of showing the mother going to the car, seeing this decapitated daughter in the car, you just see the look on his face and just hearing the screams and the yells. And I think that is probably 10 times more horrifying to see it that way than it was to see the physical body. And this, of course, leads to the funeral of Mrs. Lawrence at the end of the episode. And I will get into June and Fred's side, of course. This, though, with the funeral scene, I noticed when June, she's walking up to Mr. Lawrence at the grave, and they're both standing there, and now it's only them two. The wife is not around, so they have to act quickly with what they want to do. At least that's what I feel. And she gives Mr. Lawrence a look, and Lawrence looks back at her, and you can almost tell in his eyes that he knew that she was up to something, that she had something to do with her death. At least that's what I saw with the way he was looking at her. And the things that he would say to her, especially before the funeral, on how she was a good person and how June said she was very nice, and just her reactions almost seems very hesitant in a way because she knows what she did wrong. She knows that she let her die, and we as the audience, we know why she did that, but it's still wrong in a way. And you can just see that Mr. Lawrence, even though he may have an idea of what she did, he might be in some way understanding of why June did it. I just think the funeral scene overall was probably the best shot moment in this entire episode, and that's something I noticed with this show. They use a lot of dark moments in certain scenes, and they shoot it beautifully, especially outside. In this case, you have the funeral and you have the trees in the background and the way the sky looks, and the music even has this haunting feel to it that goes with the mood both ways. Now, quickly going into the whole side of Serena and Fred in Canada, they are now prisoners, which is something we haven't really seen before, them being in this type of environment. And I did enjoy these sequences. I wish they would have been a bit longer. Obviously, June is the main picture of this show, and most of her time in the 45 minutes of this episode was mostly her. We do get a few scenes once in a while with them in the prison, but I wish they were a bit longer. But what we did get was a pretty good chunk of what we needed to get. I just think the important thing to keep in mind about those sequences were just the emotions between Luke and Moira and how they were reacting to the Waterfords. When Moira first gets there with the baby, she's pretty much making it clear to Serena that this baby isn't yours. And even though she now looks different with new hair and new clothes, that doesn't make her any different from the woman that she was back in Gilead. And then with Luke and Fred, anyone could have seen this coming, that it was going to be a very controversial meeting between them both, and how Fred was telling him that he's changed June, she's now a different person, and he's responsible for everything that he's done, and he thinks everything that he's doing is good. And Luke, punches him, which I was expecting, and come on, who doesn't want this guy punched? You can just tell in both sequences it was full of tension, full of anger, and you don't know which side's gonna win. And by the way, with Serena and Fred, now they're not even in good terms because, as we saw earlier on, before they had their confrontations with Luke and Moira, Serena pretty much confesses to Fred that she was in on it, and she's telling him just to save yourself. And now we're starting to see that Serena, she doesn't only want to see her daughter, but she may want to live that regular life, because we do eventually see her in that room and she's wearing regular clothes. She's letting her hair down. I think she's just ready to move on away from that Gilead life and living a normal life the way she hoped she would have. But one more episode left, and we have to wait a whole other year for the next season. Hopefully it won't be too long till we get that next season. But guys, tell me in the comments below, what did you think of this episode? And two more questions for y'all. Who was your favorite character in The Handmaid's Tale? Something I've been meaning to ask for a while. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And question number two, what other shows are you interested in hearing me review for any shows that are premiering either in the fall or maybe next year? I do have Netflix, Hulu, and HBO. I have a few shows in mind for what I want to talk about, but please tell me your thoughts below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to give it a like. If you liked this review, don't forget to subscribe to hear more from me. Y'all have a great day. I'll see you later.